Surf and turf, a dish that marries ingredients from the land and from the sea. Steak and lobster is just fine, but today we're going to mix things up a little bit. Roast pork loin and roast salmon, a match made in heaven. Garnished with some fresh vegetables and a light puree. Let's begin. Let's have a quick look at our mise en place. We have some beautiful salmon that we've cubed, some beautiful pork loin cut the same size. We have butternut squash, small dice, carrot, zucchini, parsnip, and daikon, all the same size. A couple of pieces of cauliflower, and some herbs and flowers from the garden. We're going to start by cooking the daikon in some boiling salted water. It's important to cook the vegetables separately to retain their color and texture. Once cooked, remove and place in a bowl of ice water. Next, repeat this step with the parsnips. Then repeat the step with the zucchini. Then cook your squash. And then your carrots. Note, the carrots will take a bit longer than the rest of the vegetables to cook. Once your vegetables are cooked and chilled, you can mix them together. Going to add a tiny bit of good quality olive oil, and we're going to keep this aside until we're ready to plate. And then when we are ready to plate, we're going to heat it up gently. We are now going to start our cauliflower puree. We're going to start with some boiling salted water. The pieces of cauliflower are about this size. And we basically want to overcook these. They need to be very, very soft. Should take between 2 and 3 minutes. So it's been about 3 minutes, and we're going to check our cauliflower. So just use a pick or a cake tester or a paring knife, and then just stick it in, and it should be very, very tender. So these are ready. We're going to remove them and put them in a tall container for mixing. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of whole milk. And we're going to start mixing. So please note there's a couple of different ways that you can make cauliflower puree. If you want a thicker puree, you can always dry out your cauliflower a bit more and then add a tiny bit of cream and a tiny bit of butter. This will keep this really thick puree. Or you can use a bit more milk and kind of thin it out slightly. Today we want to keep this on the thin side for what we're making. So after a few minutes of mixing, we're going to put in a tiny bit of neutral oil. This will help bind everything together. And there we are. Once this cools down, it will be slightly thicker, but this is exactly the consistency that we want. Now we're going to start cooking our protein. Get a hot pan, a tiny bit of neutral oil. So we're going to start with the pork, because that takes a bit longer to cook. So you want to make sure that you salt all the sides. And then place it in the pan. Make sure you give each side a nice sear. So the objective here is to get a nice sear, a nice crust on each side. But we don't want to overcook the pork either. So we have some nice color on there now. We're going to check to see how well done it is. If it's cold, it's not cooked yet. If it's really hot, it's probably overcooked. What you want is just a slightly warm skewer. Once your pork is cooked, remove from the pan and cover and let rest while we cook our salmon. So for the salmon, hot pan, a bit of neutral oil. Season the salmon well, just like we did with the pork. Then place in the pan, skin side down. And for the salmon, we're going to be doing the majority of the cooking on the skin side down. After about a minute and a half, we're going to start searing the other sides. And we want our salmon to be medium rare. So now we're going to finish searing all the sides. Now it should be about 10-20 seconds aside. So our piece of salmon is just about cooked. Nice medium rare. We have nice color, crispy skin. And now we're ready to start plating. So we're going to take our vegetables that we had prepared earlier. We're going to heat them up gently just for about 30 seconds. We don't want them hot, just warm, as it's very easy for them to overcook at this point. So we're just going to gently place spoon on the vegetables on top, nice and neat like that. We're doing this on a separate plate so that if we spill any, we're not going to mess up the plating. Repeat the same thing with the salmon. It should look something like this. You can use a spatula to kind of straighten the edges out. On a different plate, we're going to take our cauliflower puree. It should be warm, not hot, not cold, and we're just going to make a mess. Think abstract, think Jackson Pollock. Just swipe the puree at the plate in different directions away from you, side, and if you can, try and keep some space in between each stroke. There, that's looking pretty good. Now carefully add the pork and the salmon. Now we're going to add some herbs and flowers from the garden. Just use what's fresh and available. Today I'm using dill, fennel, pimpernel, oxalis, and some chamomile. So with this style of plating, you want to try and have everything pointing in different directions, a bit more natural looking. Just keep everything spread out, pointing in different directions, different angles, and you're now ready to serve. This may look like a complicated dish, but it's very, very simple. If you don't have some of the ingredients or you just don't like some of the ingredients, substitute it for something else. Use what's fresh, use what's in season, and you will always have a good result. If you have any questions, please write them in the comments section, and I'll be happy to answer them. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like to see further recipes and techniques, please like and subscribe. Happy cooking.